Welcome back, everyone, to Drawing Basics, Part 25 of Art Lounge. I'm your host. I am going to be doing a little introduction of my Patreon page. Now, in case some of you haven't noticed, or if you guys are tuning in and wondering why Drawing Basics is going on at 8, because there's been a schedule change. Unfortunately, I could only stream in the evenings, as I have other projects that I have to do during the day. But I'm going to be still streaming every day from 8 until 10 p.m. And the days are going to alternate. If you guys want to know what the schedule is like, check out in the past broadcasts on Twitch. I have a video that talks about the Patreon page in depth and talks about the schedule change as well. I'm just going to go over real quick for those of you who are just tuning in, who've never seen Art Lounge before. This is your first episode, or for those who missed that stream, this is just a quick overview for you guys to see what is actually going on the Patreon page. So the first one, we got the first tier, the official patron. It's $2 a month. It's pretty affordable. Show your support for Art Lounge, help it keep going, help it grow. You'll get access to the Discord server, which funnels pretty much everybody from all sorts of social media into one channel, one room. And you'll also get your Patreon name or a patron name listed in the credits. I'm going to start doing credits since I launched this. So yeah, you guys should check that out. And you'll get access to the Patreon community. Then we got the tier 2 all access patron. It's $5 a month. You get all the previous tier benefits, plus you get access to work in progress, behind the scenes, access to finished pages, and as I mentioned, all the rest. Tier 3 critique. This is going to be cool. I'm really looking forward to this one as the community grows. This is pretty new. Art Lounge is pretty new, so it might take some time, but I encourage you guys to check this one out, read through it. There's some detail here. And yeah, just a quick overview. It's going to be on every Friday. The critique session is going to be every Friday for 2 hours. I'm going to be critiquing submissions and giving you guys tips and tricks on how you could improve, some pointers. You guys can ask me questions and I'll address it on stream. At the moment, no cap, because as I mentioned, the stream's still growing, so you could do some work, submit it, and resubmit it, and you'll get the critique on it on Fridays. So image size, just to keep in mind, try to have it high in the thousands, just because I'm going to be zooming in, showing details, and plus you want to get used to doing that for yourself as well. When you're submitting work, most you'll find require pretty good resolution and dimension, so it's a good start. Direct message me your patron name and a submission on Discord, which you'll get access to once you join this tier. And I'll check out what you're submitting, and then I'll live critique it on stream. And I'll also promote your social media. So if you got more work, if you got like an Instagram, a DeviantArt, include the link and I'll show it on the stream. So you get live stream critique, promotion, artist submission Discord channel that is just specifically for those who are submitting. You guys get to know each other. You could talk about your process and talk about anything under the sun. It's just a channel for you guys to interact and get to know each other, share some interests, share some things that you learned or some art that you like. So a place just for you guys to interact with each other. And you'll also get access to the Discord server, the general server that pretty much everybody who is a patron is going to have access to as well. And also, as I mentioned, the previous tier benefits as well. Then we got the Kickstarter patrons. So be the first few to get your portrait painted by me on stream. It's going to be on Thursdays, so whatever is on schedule for Thursdays, it's going to be substituted once there are more submissions by Kickstarter patrons. Masks, makeup, glasses, expressive face expression, hats, and accessories are highly encouraged, not required, but I think it'll make the stream more fun. You guys are going to get a pretty cool portrait done. Yeah, read through this. There's some requirements. You don't need to send a favorite color. That's not an absolutely necessary. It's just something, like I mentioned before, to make it look more fun. So you get a high resolution digital painting of you that I'm going to send to you. And then you get access to pretty much all the other tier benefits as well. You get access to the server. You guys can interact with each other there. And you get access to finished pages and never before seen content that I'm not going to be posting on social media. Maybe like a sneak peek, a little piece of it, but all you patrons are going to get to see some stuff that has never been posted before and stuff that is going to be posted in the future. Now there is tier 5, which is the artist promotion. So if you're an intermediate or advanced artist and you want some airtime and promotion on stream, check out this tier. There's plenty of submissions, and if you know any people who are interested in getting some airtime and promotion on stream, as well as social media, I'm going to be promoting you guys on social media as well. You'll get 5-minute airtime at the beginning of the stream, where I'll introduce you, share your social media links, and play your video that you submitted. So it does require a 5-minute video for you guys to put together to have it on the stream. It gives you an opportunity to frame it in the way you want it to be seen, timed the way you want it to be seen in your pieces. So you get to put together a pretty nice little show reel. As I mentioned, I'll show it on stream along with your social media for everybody else to get to know your work, get to know you as an artist, and it's gonna make the stream more fun. So you guys will have that, and as well as there's other detail, like I mentioned. Check it out, read through it. I don't want to spend way too much of the time on the stream talking about it. You guys can also check out the previous videos labeled Patreon page launch and schedule for more in-depth detail about it. But for the tier 5, you get the tier 5 members only, where pretty much all you artists could get together, share some resources, do maybe a collaborative video for the next submission, or just get to know each other. You know, share your ideas, share your thoughts, share your expression, whatever it is. That channel is going to be available to you guys only. There's some important notes for getting selected, so you want to read through it. And as always, you guys can ask me any questions on stream, off stream. You could send me a message and I'll write you back. Then we got the tier 4 private tutoring. There's only 15 spots. That's all the time I could afford. And you guys will get 30 minutes. I'm always going to aim for 30-minute videos, 4 per month, so 1 a week. And you will get a PSD file of whatever I worked on to show you on stream in the video. So you got to send me something that you're working on. And this is open to all skill level. So if you're a beginner and you're just starting out, send me something and I'll help you build on that. You know, we could work together until you build your skill up more. Yeah, I will be giving you step-by-step instructions, demonstrating where you can improve, and you'll get that PSD file that I work on with your work for you to check out on your own time and for you to play around with. There will be homework just so that you guys can improve. You know, I feel like you'll get your money's worth that way. There'll be some assignments for you to exercise, to improve, you know, to hone your skill. And I think that will be excellent for you for the future. You'll also get a private Discord channel for just me and you. So when you're doing some progress, you want to send it in, just throw it into the Discord channel that only me and you are going to have access to. You could ask me questions, leave comments there, and I'll write you back, or I will address it in a stream or the next video that I'm going to send you. And you'll also get access to tier 4 members only Discord channel, as well as the main channel that everybody is in. So you get 4 personal video lessons per month, PSD file, exclusive Discord channel dedicated just for you, and the tier 4 members only Discord channel, and then you get the benefits from the previous tiers. So that does it pretty much for the summary for the Patreon launch, guys. Check it out, read through it, submit some work. You know, I think I'm excited to see what you're going to come up with and what everybody else is going to get to see. All right, y'all, let's jump into the stream. So I'm going to do a quick review of this as well. This is the beginning of the week. You want to remember what is so important for you to keep in mind when you are drawing, when you are sitting down to draw pretty much anything. And I think this goes for pretty much beginners, advanced, intermediate, and I think by the time you would consider yourself advanced or experienced, you would already have this ingrained. But if not, here's a little reminder for you. So what is the very first thing you have to keep in mind when you are sitting down to draw? And you guessed it, it is drawing lightly. You don't want to press down really hard on the paper. That's going to ingrain itself into the paper. If you want to erase it, it's just not going to look good, and it's going to get in the way of your new lines and your vision of trying to see something different. So number one thing is drawing lightly. Number two is keeping your hand at a distance from the tip of the pencil. You don't want to give it the death grip. You don't want to hold it all the way to the end. That's just going to make your work really rigid. It's going to be a bad habit that you're teaching yourself that you're going to have to unlearn later. By keeping it at a distance, as you could see, you get greater range of motion. It's more comfortable for your arm as opposed to really getting in there. And then, as you could see, it's more of a stiff motion, and you cover less, you know, unless you're doing this, you know, you're covering less. But check it out. You guys see the difference? See how much more range I get and how much more loose and easygoing my lines would be. Give me 1 second. I'm still trying to find. There it is. So yeah, number two, don't hold it too close to the tip. That's just going to be a disservice for you, and you're going to have to work that out later. Just trying to find the page that I think is really good for this review. Okay, and then we got you got to keep in mind highlights, midtones, and shadows. Great exercise for you to practice how to draw lightly. That's number one. You're keeping all these things in mind. You don't want to bombard yourself with too much, you know, especially if you're a beginner, if you're just starting out, which is probably why you're watching the stream. You want to improve, you want to learn good habits, you want to learn good techniques, and this is a great opportunity for you to practice that, to be able to condition yourself in a way to do this by default. You know, you keep your hand at a distance from the tip, you press lightly, and you could even just gradually go over the same area over and over again lightly. You don't even have to press hard, and just by the nature of layering, it gets dark. Now from there, you can always start to press harder, but you don't want to teach yourself that at the beginning. That's something that you can always do, and you could do it later. But for now, your default should always be keeping it loose, keeping it light, and keep holding it further from the tip. And all these things, you know, there will be moments where you might want to get a little bit closer to the tip to really get down tiny little details. But first, teach yourself this. And you might not even have to. At some point, you're going to have so much control over the pencil that you won't want to even get that close. Because most of the time, the reason why people do this, why they give the death grip, why they hold it so close to the tip, is because they don't feel as in control over the pencil or secure with their lines. Because it does feel a little bit wobbly at a distance. You don't, especially if you're not used to it, you don't feel as much in control over it. So people tend to do that, especially beginners, because they want to have more control and straighter lines, for example, or really get down that curvature that they're trying to emulate. But all that could be achieved instead of this way, this. So yeah, this little exercise is excellent. You get to do that. It's kind of mindless, you know, you're only keeping a couple of things in your mind, but the actual thing itself isn't really complicated, which is perfect. You know, while you're trying to train yourself to have these good habits, remembering highlights, midtone, and shadows, practicing how to even keep it light and to gradually, smoothly go from highlights, midtones to shadows. This is an example of it being smooth. This is an example of very stark difference. You could tell the difference between the highlight, midtone, and then shadow. Whereas here, it's the very smooth gradation. And you want to achieve that. And it's a perfect way to do that. You can also get yourself one of these bad boys. Small, flexible, light. You can put it in your pocket, you can put it in your book bag, and pop it out whenever you got some downtime, whether it's at work, whether it's at school, whatever, or you're on public transportation. Perfect chance to sit down and try out these exercises, get better and better at it. If it gets boring, you could practice the next best thing, which is drawing the circle. You know, you don't want to have a wonky looking head. You know, this is a perfect example of it, where people don't bother to draw the perfect circle or as close as possible, and they have these kind of results, whether it's incredibly narrow, where he has like a sunflower seed for a head. It's not even a circle, it's some oblong shape. Then you got this one here where it's just deformed, you know, it doesn't even match. They're supposed to match, both halves. Each half is supposed to match each other. So that's the importance of drawing down the line, down the middle, when you're learning anatomy, when you're learning the figure. It gives you opportunity to compare and see, oh, it's a little bit wider. This is kind of, it looks a little bit deformed. I should correct that. And that line down the middle really gives that stark comparison. So it's a really important detail to note as well. This is an example of a proportionate body, just in comparison to see how different it looks when you don't really consider all these things. This is an example of what happens when you don't draw the head properly and then use the rules of measurement, which is using the head, to measure out the body and make sure it's proportionate. It becomes this wide because 3 heads across, including the shoulders, is the measurement of the torso. So if you measure it out with the pencil, you'll notice that's as wide as it's supposed to be. For the hips, for the waist, it's supposed to, well, for the hips, it's supposed to be 1.5 heads. So by the nature of you using these rules, if you don't take into account the shape of the head, making it a perfect circle, not an oblong shape, not a football shape, not just roundness, you have to draw out the circle and then add the cup shape to create the head. If you don't draw the circle right, it could either end up this way, that way. So let's just skip back to this important page where I talk about the unit of measurement. This is just a quick overview, guys. There's other episodes where I go into depth talking about each of the unit of measurements, and you'll find that in the first 10-15 even episodes of Art Lounge. So over here, as I mentioned, you use the head as the unit of measurement. So 2 heads for the torso going across for the width, 2 heads for the height, 3 heads if you include the shoulders, still 2 heads for the height once you include them. Then we got the head size. Now notice how the foot is about half the size of the head. It's not wider. You know, this is something that I see, and I just recently saw an Instagram post where the person really put in some time, but because they ignored what the size of the feet looks like, they just look like hot pockets on his feet. You know, he didn't practice that. He practiced other parts like the You could see he really did put effort into the bicep. He knows how to draw the bicep because he took time to learn it. But when it came down to the feet, you know, hot pockets, mittens, it just looked bad, really bad. It ruined the image. You know, it ruined the time that he spent trying to get better. By just taking shortcuts or thinking that other people won't notice it because they're not illustrators. Almost everybody notices things like that. They're just not illustrators. You know, it's just our ability, our subconscious ability to recognize proportion, to recognize if something is wrong with a person. You know, it's in I want to say it's somewhere in the fight or flight instinct, you know, where people just look at each other to recognize like, oh, okay, yeah, you look human. You look normal. You got these features that I could recognize, that I could relate to. So people just have this like instinctive, and even because we're just exposed to each other all the time, we recognize what looks normal, what looks proportionate, what looks right. So you don't necessarily have to be an artist to notice those mistakes. The only person that you're really fooling by trying to avoid how to draw feet, how to draw hands especially. And you see artists who are like putting hands behind the back, which is a shortcut. It just doesn't work. You know, you could do it for fun. You could do it because you're practicing, you're learning, you're getting better. But know that you have to address that problem. You're hiding that problem. You're sweeping it under the rug, or behind that back. So practice that. It's going to make your drawings a lot better. You're going to get better responses from people when you really do take the time to draw the feet, draw the hands. It's important. You know, all these elements are really important. And the more you draw, the more you'll recognize that every little detail does count. You know, there are certain lines that give the scene character, give the person character, give the building character. You know, there's a fine line between understanding the structure of everything and choosing to really take it to the next level of like hyper-realism, or take it down to something more simple, you know, like more like cartoonish style or children's book style, where you see more simplified things, but they're still balanced, they're still proportionate, you know, they still make sense to some degree, and you could tell that the person really understands basic shapes, that they understand a cylinder shape, that they understand the body and how to keep it all proportionate, despite them being really simple. Let's say the lines are simple. So don't fool yourself. Take the time to learn all these different body parts well. Don't hide them behind the back, or cut the feet off, or put mittens on them. It's going to make them look bad. And it's going to make your drawing look bad, especially if you are really good at drawing like the chest muscles and the bicep, and you spend time on the hair, you know, you go into detail, but then other parts are just hiding, you know. You hide the fact that you can't draw eyes by putting bangs over the person's face, or putting something else over their eyes. It's just a disservice for you, because eventually you'll have to confront that. Eventually you'll want to draw characters that have these features, you know. So look at your own work, you know, be like, what am I trying to hide from myself right now? Like, what am I not good at? Is it hands? I should draw the hands. Yeah, I should draw a lot of hands over and over and over and over again. Study it to see if it's right. So just a quick overview here. The entire body is 8 heads. So 4 heads for the top, from the top of the head to the groin, and then 4 heads from the groin down to about like halfway through the feet. And this right here is just a demonstration to show this. I'm going to be uploading this page to Patreon, so you guys can get access to it. You could print it, you could have it next to you on screen while you're digitally drawing, and that way you could practice this over and over and over again. So yeah, check that out. That's going to be uploaded soon, and I won't spend way too much time, just because I already spent a lot of time on the Patreon page. I'm not going to be doing this every stream for weeks. It's just the beginning. It just started. I just launched it, so it needs some airtime. It needs some FaceTime. But anyways, You guys can also ask any questions or ask on the stream for me to review more parts, whatever part of the body you want to get better idea of, or what part of the lesson you want better understanding, and I'll go over it. So with that said, let's jump into where we left off last time. We were doing the legs. So just quick review of that as well, since we're on that topic. Why draw this, right? Well, for one, the number one thing is you're still practicing precision. You're practicing getting better. Think of it as like, how many reps you do when you are exercising, when you go to the gym. Do you do just one repetition? Let's say you just draw it 3 times and you're good. Or do you draw it 3 times and then you take a break and then you draw it again 3 times? You want to make sure that you draw this frequent. Once is not enough. It's like saying, I read the alphabet once, now I know all the letters, and I could read every single passage in every single book. It's not how it works. When we were learning the alphabet, we had to do it several times. We had to write it, we had to recite it several times. We had to test ourselves by closing the book and not having there for us to look at. So it's the same idea. Instead of letters, you're doing it with images. You're trying to remember and practice over and over again how to draw these body parts. Drawing the bones is just another excellent way to get more precise with your lines, to practice all the other things I was mentioning earlier. Drawing lightly, keeping your hand distant from the tip. That whole sketching out the entire the image as quickly as possible in big shapes lightly, so that you give yourself parameters to work in, and you could set yourself some space. You don't want to start out drawing, let's say, from here, and then by the time you get down to the legs, you're like, whoa, this is huge. It's taking up way more space than I wanted it to, or it's not even fitting on the page. So when you start out and you sketch lightly and you sketch out a big chunk of where you want it all to be, right? And here is that example. Notice I'm not really committing anything, but I am using the cylinder shapes in their most light and free-flowing form to set parameters. Another benefit of practicing basic shapes is when you sit down and you start sketching things out, right? You're just loosely, quickly creating some sort of parameters. What are you using to do that? So some people don't know and they just sketch squiggles, or they're just like, kind of like grasping in the dark for something to come up for them to be like, okay, I'm going to work off of this. If you practice basic shapes, if you practice cylinder shapes, like I was mentioning, in this other example here, if you practice drawing these out, that's going to be what your reference is going to be. All of this, like pretty much everything on the body is comprised of a cylinder shape. Everything needs it as its basic form, as its structure, as its beam when you're talking about buildings, right? You don't want to start building a building, going into detail, putting on all the bricks and designing the interior without laying the beams down, setting yourself parameters. The building is going to fall apart, and the entire building is going to be a mess because you're going to start building out of range. You don't have anything to work within. So these are your beams. If you're going back to drawing, these are your beams. You're giving yourself parameters to work in. You're confining it within a space for you to be able to go into detail. Now that I've structured everything, made sure that it's all proportionate, I could start defining parts. I could start adding curves and muscles and so on and so forth. Especially if you've kept it light the entire time. It's not going to be as prominent in the forefront as it is here. This is just for example. So I did press down more so you guys can actually see it. But yeah, you know, if you practice all that, if you practice all those basic shapes, you'll notice that when you sit down and you're like, oh, you know, I know that the leg is a cylinder shape, so I'm going to just draw a big cylinder for that. And that will be your starting point. You know, that will be something for you to work from. And then eventually add more and more detail to it to bring it to life. So you guys could see how it all lends itself to each other. You know, when you do those exercises in your sketchbook, they end up benefiting you when you sit down to like study more parts of the body. All this stuff really is beneficial for you in multiple ways. It doesn't just start and stop in your sketchbook. It doesn't just start and stop for drawing anatomy. You know, all this practice, all these concepts and the process that you go through for each of those things ends up contributing to other parts of your drawing as well. And that's kind of what I wanted to highlight each and every time, is for you guys to notice that all that helps. You know, were you sitting down to draw hands and getting better at them as opposed to hiding them ends up helping you overcome other obstacles. Like, okay, if I did that for my hands, you know, if I did it for my lack of knowledge when it comes to hands, I could do it for other parts too. And then for other ones, for other things like backgrounds and buildings. You know, I notice people really spend a lot of time on characters, on poses, on whatever it is that deals with the human body. But when it comes down to them, you know, let's say drawing some background to make it interesting, kind of clueless, right? And they spend all that time they're focusing on the figure, focusing on the character. But when it came down to it, like beyond that, it just kind of crickets started to pop up. So overcoming one fear or lack of understanding lends itself to other moments where you'll encounter that. And it's a continuous process, you know, that's the whole idea of it. There's so much to learn. So you always have to be learning in a sense. Like, you know, once you understand anatomy, you got to understand facial expression. You don't want your characters all to have the same face expression every time. That's boring, you know, and that's gonna be a challenge if you don't practice. If you sit down to do comics, you know, you're gonna find yourself drawing the same face expression, and that's not fun. Yeah, once you get past that, you gotta learn how to draw buildings, you know, and how do you draw those in perspective. So there's a huge amount of stuff that that you're gonna learn. So if you start practicing or overcoming your obstacles rather than hiding them, it's really gonna help you in general to like get better in all these things. You know, you're not gonna run away from the opportunity to learn about the building in perspective. You know, and that's a constant battle. That's something that everybody, every artist has, you know, taking it to the next level, leveling up. Just when you feel like you've leveled up, a new chapter opens up where you're like, okay, well, Now I have to really learn how to draw in perspective. You know, I figured out face expressions. I figured out anatomy. I figured out how to draw hands. You know, now I have to figure out how to draw things in perspective. Now I have to figure out how to draw animals. You know, and you'll see, like, in the next stream, I'm going to be drawing from John Buscema's comics. Highly encourage you to check his work out. Beautiful work. Amazing understanding of all these things. And I'll get into that there as well. Another reason why it's a good idea to draw these muscles out as technically as they are is because then it allows you, and again, this is something that you have to do multiple times. You can't just draw it once and then be like, okay, now I'm going to sit down and I'm going to draw legs and they're going to be amazing. You got to continuously practice it, and eventually, if you do it every day, it becomes ingrained in your head. Just the same way you didn't think that you'd be able to draw a face or hands, and now you're able to do that. Or think of anything really that you felt before was going to be a real challenge. You overcame it, right? And now you're able to do that. So it's the same idea for this. It's the same process. You just have to challenge yourself each time to really pay attention to the details that maybe you're struggling with, right? Like, let's say you're like, I don't know how to draw cats. What does it really look like? You know, where does that bulge really start and where does it end? So yeah, drawing out these muscles, you get to learn these limits because you get to see, like, how do they lay on the bone and why? You know, for instance, here you could see that this is the muscle and it's not going all the way down to the ankles, right? So there has to be a point where you have to recognize and tell yourself to recognize, like, hey, this is as far as it goes, you know, and this is why. And you do that visually and physically to ingrain it even better. And if you guys stick around for the drawing comics stream, you're gonna see how well John Buscema is able to actually do that. You know, these are muscles without the skin, right? So you get to see the interior, but because he understands the interior of it so well, he's able to do things like add shadows to them, like, rather than drawing every single detailed line that's within these examples. He's able to just suggest their presence by creating the shadows in the right place. You know, there are people who just learn to draw the shadows, and there are people who understand the muscles, and when they draw the shadows, those muscles really look good. They look right. And they could do that in any position. That's the other benefit of drawing out these examples, is that you really understand it three-dimensionally. You're really understanding its presence, which allows you to draw them three-dimensionally. It's not just some abstract line that you see on every character that you just include because that's what's done. It's because you really understand the figure so well, and you're able to just play around with that. Gonna bring it up a little bit so you guys can see more. I do have a tendency to forget. Is it in frame? Is it in a picture? The more time you spend with it, you know, let's say you draw out all the little details, all the lines, the more time you spend with it, right? The more you get to know it. If you're kind of sketching through it quickly to be like, look, I'm done, I'm going to move on to the next thing, you're missing out the experience of getting to know it. You know, you're just rushing through it to be like, okay, what's next? And that shortchanges you in the long run, because you have to draw it more often for it to really ingrain itself. You know, if you're just like rushing through quickly, it's going to pose itself to be more of a challenge when you try to recite it. So that's kind of why I like to really invest more time and like follow the pattern of the lines, you know. Don't just fudge it and be like, oh, well, it's close enough, let me move on to another part. So tomorrow for the drawing basics lessons, I won't be doing a review of these things. I'm only going to do it Monday, Wednesdays. And that way you guys will get more new content rather than just continuously reviewing old content. And I will try to make the Patreon review even shorter. To just you knowing that it's out there still. There's some interesting content for you to check out and become part of the stream. Notice the difference between this and this. This is the back of the skeletal structure. This is the back of the skeletal structure with the muscles laid on there. But you could see how much is actually laid onto the bones. It's all muscle there. And you could see where it starts to really jut out from the bone. This right here is the same as this detail, the tailbone. So you could see how like all these muscles are connected to that area. it's like, I guess, understanding the inside of a car, right? Like once you understand where things go, how things are attached to each other, you could take the car apart and put it back together. Or like clocks, you know, even clocks, let's say, if we're talking about like analog clocks or whatnot, if you study the inside, you understand how the inside of it works, you could take all the parts apart, put it together, and have it work. So this is kind of the same idea. It's like you're understanding all the internal parts, like, well, how do the muscles and where do they connect? And that way you could structure, you can structure it the way you'd like it for your own project. I also like practicing all the cross-hatching because, for the same reason as everything else, it helps me improve my line work, helps me improve my control over the pencil. It's somewhat simple, it's kind of mindless. But all that still improves skill, still contributes towards you getting a better understanding, even like the basic process of drawing. I am gonna finish doing this little shadow here, and that's gonna be it for drawing basics for the day, ladies and gents. I will be back in 5 minutes to do drawing comics, as I mentioned earlier, so stay tuned for that. If you enjoy the content, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. Those both will help grow the stream, grow our Art Lounge and the community, so that you guys could see more interesting content in the future. And stick around. I will be back in 5 minutes for more Art Lounge. Right after I finish this cross-hatching. It's so well done in the original drawing. It's like every single line is so unison with the next one. It's a really awesome skill as well. Alright, y'all. 5-minute break, and I will be back for more drawing comics. Hey y'all, welcome to Drawing Comics. I'm your host. I will be drawing John Buscema's Conan the Barbarian. This is going to be part 25 in the Art Lounge stream. But first, I'm going to do a quick review of the big announcement that I made last week, in case you noticed, in case you missed it, in case this is your first time tuning into Art Lounge. This is a perfect opportunity for you to see what's in store. Tier 1 patron, official patron, you contribute $2 and you will get access to Discord server for everybody that is on Patreon from all the social media that I advertise on. All of you guys are going to be in one general channel, so you guys will have access to that as well. Get patron name listed in the credits. I'm going to start doing credits since the launch of Art Lounge, so that's going to be a new feature. All right, moving on to tier 2, all access patrons. You get all the previous tiers, plus you get access to finished pages and exclusive content. I'm going to be pretty brief about it. If you guys want more extensive info, check out the Patreon page. You could read through all this stuff. Pretty much everything that I review is just going to be from this page. You guys can get more detail, and you can always ask me questions on stream, off stream. You can send me a message, and on any of the social media platforms listed on the Twitch channel, and I'll write you back, or I'll talk about it in the next stream. So next tier, tier 3, this is the critique submissions tier. I'm excited about this one. This is going to give you guys a chance to be part of the live stream and have your work featured on the stream itself. I'm going to promote your social media. So if you got an Instagram, if you got a DeviantArt, Tumblr, whatever it is where people could see more of your work, include it along with what you're working on. And I will do a critique on Fridays. It's going to be held every Friday. I'm going to critique for 2 hours. Not necessarily your work for 2 hours, but it's just a wide opportunity for people to submit and have multiple critiques in one session on Friday. So you get that. You also get access to the Discord channel, as I mentioned. But yeah, check that out, read through it. There's some other tier benefits as well. Then we got the Kickstarter patron, $25 per month. You will be the first patrons to get your portrait painted by me. It's going to be a digital painting. I'm going to do a portrait of you. So highly encourage masks, makeup, glasses, expressive face expressions, hats, and accessories. They're going to make the stream more fun. They're going to make the fun come out. So try that out. Try all these things out, but it's not required. You could just send me a portrait of yourself from your head down to your neck. Rather your chest, I'd say that's better. And I'm going to do a high resolution digital painting that I'm going to send to you personally, and you could do whatever you'd like. You can have it as your social media platform image, or send it to a close one. Somebody you're close with, either your relative, somebody you love, and have that there to keep them company. So you get access to the finished pages like the previous tier. Your name is going to be listed in the credits as well, and the other tier benefits. Then we got tier 5, artist promotion. This is more for advanced, intermediate, or advanced artists. Check it out. Check this one out. It's highly encouraged. Well, it's very important for being selected. You first join tier 1. So for $2, you get access to the Discord channel. You could send me a private message there with a link to what you want to submit for promotion. So you will get 5-minute airtime, and you could be in any of these categories. I even have them listed down here. It doesn't necessarily have to be illustrators. It could be all sorts of artists. So if you know somebody who would also like to promote their work, who isn't necessarily an illustrator, this is a perfect opportunity for them as well. So you'll get 5-minute airtime at the beginning of the stream where I'll introduce you, so share your social media link, and play your video you submitted. So it is required for you to submit a video. iMovie is pretty simple. There are easy ways you could put together a 5-minute video of your work, whatever it is that you want to stream. That way it's within your time frame. You get to time it however you'd like, as long as it's within 5 minutes. So there are tips here, there's information you could read about. There's some extensive stuff, you know, some ideas for all sorts of categories when it comes to art. And yeah, if you guys want to know more, you can always ask me. I'll write you back. And you could also check out the previous broadcast stream where it's titled Patreon Launch and Schedule Change. Check that one out. I really go into detail for each tier. You could get a better idea for things. And I'll probably do a more extensive one during the week just to keep promoting it. But yeah, you could definitely check that one out. It really does give you better info. And like I said, you can always ask me questions if there's something else you wanted to know. Then we got the tier 4 private tutoring. This is for all sorts of levels. If you're a beginner, if you're intermediate, if you're advanced, anywhere in between all those, it's a perfect opportunity for you to improve and hone your skills. So you'll get 30-minute video per week, so 4 videos per month for $65 per month, where I will give you hands-on input, step-by-step instructions, and demonstrations showing you where you can improve through Clip Studio Paint. And you'll also receive the PSD file from it. So whatever you send me in, you first have to send me something that you're working on. You will get access to the Discord channel when you join this tier, and all the other benefits from the other tiers as well. So you could send me the work that you're interested in improving on, or whatever it is that you like to be part of the lesson. And yeah, I will send you a video with demonstration and the PSD file that I'll work on it. There's going to be homework. That way you really excel faster. There is going to be stuff that you could do throughout the week to improve your work and yeah, progress the lessons. You'll also get a private Discord channel where it's just going to be between me and you. Nobody else is going to have access. It's limited to 15 people. It's about all the time that I can afford at the moment. So each person is going to have their own Discord channel where me and you can interact. You could leave me comments, you could leave me questions, you could send me work that you're progressing in, and I could talk about it more with you on the in the channel or on the video that I send you. Then you get access to tier 4 members only Discord channel. So all of you, all 15 of you, can be in the channel, talk with each other, share resources, share ideas, or talk about pretty much anything under the sun. And you will get all the previous tier benefits. Yeah, previous tier benefits as well. So that's pretty much it. I try to keep it as brief as possible, guys. I want to jump into drawing comics. So as I mentioned, check out the previous broadcast talking about the Patreon page and ask me any questions you got. So let's jump back into it. This is where we left off last time. In case you guys are wondering and you're just tuning in, you're asking, why are you streaming drawing comics at night? Well, it's that schedule change I mentioned. Unfortunately, I have other projects that are up, and I have to attend to those during the day. Hopefully somewhere in the future, near future, I will come back to streaming more frequently. But for now, it's only going to be at night. It's going to start at 8 and go until 10 daily. So you guys are still going to have access to Art Lounge. And I do enjoy it. I don't want to lessen that. I really do want to stick to at least 2 hours of streaming time. And also, I would I'm looking forward to the Art Lounge community growing, you guys being part of the Patreon tiers, sending in your work for me to see some interesting content, and for all the viewers to see what's out there. You know, what stuff do you want to share? So here we go. This is where we left off. Conan is stranded in the middle of nowhere after he tried to infiltrate the cultist meeting, and he was discovered. He was discovered by the psychopath who ordered to have him crucified on the tree. It's craziness, man. Crazy stuff. Out in the middle of nowhere, in the desert, on the dying tree, with a bunch of vultures circling around him, waiting to have their meal. I think we moved past, we moved past this panel. We're up to this one. I remember I was pretty enamored by his like tiny anatomy. Even when he's like drawing really small, he's really getting into it. He gets all the proportions down, even the face expressions, you know, like looking at it from a distance, you could still see some form of bewilderment just from a couple of dots on the face. It's pretty amazing. I really wish there were more like videos from back then talking about their process. You know, how is it that they come up with these poses and what's really going on in their head while they're drawing out all these panels. It's interesting because I think every artist has their own internal dialogue process when creating this content. So it would have been cool to see that. There isn't enough about them. You know, that's one of the things that such a huge bummer. When I was creating the 5-minute video, if you guys missed it, check it out. It's in stream 1 of Art Lounge. It's a 5-minute video about John Buscema. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to create it, was because there isn't that much about him. There isn't that much content out there, despite him having so many issues out. As I mentioned previous streams, he would produce 2 comics, 2 issues per month. So that's 60 pages of pure work from imagination, and this level of detail for pretty much the anatomy, you know, all that stuff. Now granted, like, inking was done by somebody else, so that really does cut the time in half and gives more room, but still, despite that, you know, he's a great artist. He's a legendary artist. For him to be able to pump out that many penciled issues per month is very impressive and very cool. But yeah, there wasn't much about him. There wasn't like that many videos. The only video out there so far was the Drawing Comics the Marvel Way, where he talks with Stan Lee. And he shows like examples of how to draw certain things here and there. But it's not very personal. It's not just like focusing on John Buscema's work. And him talking about his process. It's just more of like lessons, you know, where he gives examples. But you guys should still check it out. It's actually a really good video. It really gives you a good idea of like, what is the process and what was the process back then? You know, because I find that to be more challenging, I'd say, than digital, because there weren't that many shortcuts you could take. Like with digital, you just hit the undo button, whatever that combo is for you, and boom, it's gone. Whereas back then, it's like, if you make a mistake, you gotta draw it again, and you gotta cut it out and paste it onto the panel. That's gonna go for prints. You know, so if something goes wrong, if you ink wrong, or the paper ends up bleeding, or or the pen ends up bleeding or something. The way you would correct it is you would redraw it again, cut it out, and paste it on top to have it printed in that way. And that way, when it's printed, it's not visible. But yeah, that's a lot more laborious, and there was less margin for error. You know, you really couldn't make that many mistakes because it's more time consuming to correct them. And people were that good at drawing that it was almost unnecessary. Like, most of them were just pumping out issues, pumping out panels with beautiful work. Let's see, maybe I could try to fit in 3. Definitely won't fill 4. Although they should, because it's as wide as this. So I'm trying to imagine how I could... We're gonna have to do a little bit of measurement. So we got 4 here. It's about 6, so it's 2 inches bigger. This is about 6. So this should be 8. You know, really, what difference does it make? Because I'm not going to be using the page for anything else. Let me see if I could just lightly sketch out. And this is another benefit of drawing from comics, is that you get to see what needs to be done to create a page. Like, you're going to come into problems that you didn't think about before, which is panel layout, how to fit the story within the page, how to properly fit everything within the page. I don't know, y'all. I think, I mean, technically, it should... Oh no, it's not as wide as this. I'm getting confused. No wonder. Now it's a little bit easier to deal with it, because I was looking at this, whereas this panel is this panel. And this panel, if you were to line it up with these panels, would be about 2 panels max, maybe 3. Let's take a look. You guys could notice I'm using the ruler a lot. Yeah, it's like about 2.5 at most. Yeah, I'm using this ruler a lot. It's actually really useful. It's a good size, especially for this kind of work. I also got a bunch of other ones here. All different sorts. And there is multiple benefits to them actually being this shape. You know, prior I used to be like, well, I guess this is good for like angles. If you're making like right angles and stuff, you get 2 out at once. But it's also very useful because of this. Check that out. This is so much more comfortable to be able to make these lines because it jots out so much. Whereas doing the same thing with this is a little bit more, is less comfortable. It's actually more laborious to keep it in that position. You're putting more strain on your wrist because you're trying to make sure that it stays in place, whereas you just hold it by the tip at the end of the triangle and then boom, quickly make your lines. You know, here as well, same thing. So it's pretty handy, you know, despite it being kind of cheap. Obviously didn't last too long there. I'm kind of disappointed that I ended up, I think it just dropped too many times on the floor because my desk is tilted. It just bloop and would crack, and cracked, not wood. Hopefully it's the last time. But yeah, great little tool. It's also clear. This is the benefit of it. It's not solid. It's see-through. It could really help, and it does help multiple times when you're making your lines, wherever, even let's say within the panel too, right, in relation to the character, let's say, or whatever other thing. You could see them through the ruler, and that allows you to make more adjustments, whereas a solid one, not so much, obviously. So yeah, you guys could see how, and I didn't notice that until I had to use it. I was like, oh, look at that. Well, it makes it a lot easier than when it comes to this in a lot of cases. Also, in terms of, like, you know, this is something I mentioned before as well, your line of vision. You know, when you're using the pencil and you're holding it too close to the tip, it obstructs your line of vision. You don't get to see the rest of the panel. You know, you got to do a lot of this. You might make a mistake because you don't have the ability to compare the object to other objects. So your proportion might be off. You know, whereas if you have a better view, the scope of what's going on in the panel, you can draw it out in according to everything else. So, you know, this isn't really a great habit. It's a bad habit, and it stiffens up your process. It stiffens up your hand. It ends up causing your hand to ache, you know, because you're giving it the death grip. You're really pressing down on the tip. So bad habit. If you guys are in it, it's better to start working yourself out of it now than later when it gets more and more ingrained. So I'm gonna say right about here is good. Is this the conversation song? Sounds like it. Let's talk with me. It's not, let's have a conversation. She does say that. I knew it. I like her style. It's a good time. It sounds like a good time. That sounds better to me than going to some bar. Not much of a drinker. Don't really enjoy it. based on the size of the face that I drew. I'm gonna quickly sketch things out because I wanted to trying to match the size that I drew it in, but it's proving to be a challenge to do that. Like everything is much larger. And I don't want to give him this like a long face. The nose is like incredibly long. The eyes are so far away from the nostril. Big mistake. It's a big mistake that a lot of people make, is drawing the nostril too far away from the eye. It makes the face look so weird. Like it does right now. I don't like it. Should the eye be bigger? Yeah, it looks so weird. Ugh, that's frustrating. How do I solve this problem? The space is right. Like, as big as this panel is, you know, I got the head in the right position. It's slightly better. It doesn't look as warped. And whenever people don't pay attention to how far the eye is from the nostril, the face usually starts to end up looking like an alien of some sort. Or like a painting done by Matisse. Where the faces are extremely long and the facial features are extremely long. Been recently watching Spawn on HBO. We got the series on there, the animated series, and I really enjoy it. It's really well done. I mean, it's another adult animation, and I think it's very cool. I mean, despite that there's like a lot of violence in it, but the entire idea of it is that it's supposed to talk about the corruption that is being held out there, and it's just kind of giving you that gritty city life vibe. Plus, I think during that time, also in like the 90s, crime was really high, and it's slowly starting to like go in that direction with all these idiotic gun laws where they're like telling everybody they could carry a gun whenever they feel like it for whatever reason. They're just completely disregarding people with mental issues, people who are deprived, people who are frustrated. They want that. They want that chaos. So then they could start stomping around telling people that they have to be orderly. It's just absolutely ridiculous. These people are crazy. Just want to make things worse for their own entertainment and agenda. Like, they don't care about improving the system. They don't want you to be smarter. It's gonna get in the way of their pedestal that they're on. You know, if you're gonna be too smart, you're gonna realize that they're just selling a bunch of nonsense. And selling you a bunch of nonsense. Most of these politicians, they're not interested in doing their job. They're interested in becoming celebrities. They're interested in becoming professional liars, where they could sell you on anything and they could tap themselves on the back for being clever. That's it. There's only few politicians who actually respect the job and the title.
And as you might have noticed it from previous streams, that's Bernie Sanders and AOC. They're both great. They really do try to put in as much effort as they can to progressing the world rather than having it dance around for their narcissistic entertainment. Which is what these other politicians are, basically. They want you to buy their stupid products for you to listen to what they say, praise them, and then waste your own life. And not get in the way of their glory. Which isn't what politics is about, isn't what politicians are for. They're there to make sure that the economy is stable and to address the issues brought on by the people. And not become celebrities or gurus or whatever they're trying to be right now. One guy thinks he's Galileo, another one thinks he's like the next authoritarian leader, another one thinks that there's some prodigy or whatever. It's just egocentric nonsense. None of them want to do their job. But we're paying them with our taxes to go around and play these roles that don't have anything to do with their job. But anyways, that show is great. It actually does talk about that as well, and that's something that I didn't notice before. I think when I was younger, I was just like, oh, when's Spawn gonna come onto the screen? You know, I want to see how he animated him and what's he gonna do next. Whereas when you watch it again and you really pay attention to the story, it's pretty good. It's a really good story. I even like how he drew this little shadow in the silhouette of his friend. It's so tiny, but you could still see that it's pretty proportionate. Like the head isn't just like a big matchstick head to show that, oh, it's the head of the person. Like it really makes sense within its distance. And I think you could even see like a belt on there. Might have been an accident. But yeah, just more demonstration of how dedicated he was to anatomy. There are parts of that show, the Spawn animated series, that reminds me of Sin City. And I recently saw photos of Todd McFarlane hanging out with Frank Miller.
I think what would be kind of interesting to see would be like, let's say, an issue of Spawn where Frank Miller draws some of the characters all within the same story, within the same panel. Like, you know how sometimes they break the comic in half? Like, let's say if it is Gen 13, it will be drawn by like Joe Scott Campbell, and then the next page would be drawn, or the next section of the story would be drawn by like Jim Lee or Quesada. Just as an example, it doesn't... I don't think that exists. But those kind of formats exist. What I'm talking about is like the characters within the same frame, or the same... the whole story basically would be drawn by different artists. So you would see like a different style of characters. Done for the same comic. I think that would be interesting. Like, let's say there would be an issue of like Frank Miller and Todd McFarlane doing the same issue together. I think that would be pretty cool. Oh, and I was watching Primal. If there are any fans of Primal on stream or tuning into the stream, shout out to you guys. Such a great show. Gandhi Tarkovsky, I want to say that's how you say his last name. He did Samurai Jack. And he also did a bunch of other like Adult Swim cartoons. What a great show. What a great series. So well drawn. And the story is told so well. If you guys haven't checked that out, highly encourage you to. They just started streaming season 2, I believe. And it's beautiful. It's not very long either. It's like each one is like 20 minutes, maybe less. But they're very fun. Like, despite how short they are, each episode is short. Every single episode is like an adventure. And a great story. And art. It's very beautiful work. Colors are nice, the cinematography is excellent. All around, I'd say it's a really great show. Might have made his legs a little too thick there. He's out in the distance, so And even the thin little lines for the ground, they have character to it. It's not just like a quick line. Like he purposely gave it some ripples and texture, not text, to make it more interesting. You just really see how much he loves drawing. Like normally people would take shortcuts. And in the near future, guys, I will be showing you Silver Surfer. Another masterpiece done by John Buscema. I also really like how Mobius drew Silver Surfer. He did an episode of that, or a couple of issues of that as well. And if you guys missed it, check out the highlights section on Twitch. I have a section specifically dedicated to like these little highlights where I introduce different artists. So far I've introduced Alex Raymond, who created Flash Gordon. I also introduced Mobius. And I think that's it for now. But there's going to be more. Oh, and Eduardo Risso. How could I forget? Another great artist. I introduced Eduardo Risso and 100 Bullets. The comic book that he created with writer Brian Azzarello. And colorist Patricia Mulville. I also really like her work. She's a colorist for that comic, and she does other comics as well. But they all just went so well together. Like that whole series, I absolutely love it. I always mention it whenever I talk about comics because I think it's one of the best stories written there, and it's also kind of goes, it's kind of close to like Spawn as far as like how gritty it gets and how dark it gets. There's some dark issues, but I would say it's a different story. The style is great. It's different style, just in terms of like it's adult content. That book is there as well. It's up there. And you guys will be seeing a lot more of those in the future. I enjoy talking about it. I think they're worth all the time and all the mentioning. Their work is just great. It's very inspiring. I'm gonna do a quick sketch of this gentleman, and unfortunately, ladies and gents, it has come to that time, and where I'll be cutting the stream. But fret not, I will be back tomorrow at 8 p.m. No longer in the afternoon. If you guys are just tuning in, or if you tuned in late, you missed the announcement. Check out the past broadcast where I talk about the schedule change. I talk about the Patreon launch. I go into extensive detail about what's in the Patreon tiers. Yeah, and you guys can see the schedule change there. Fortunately, I have other projects I must attend to that are going to need more time, which is going to cut into the stream. But my goal is to come back to streaming more frequently. I really like this page. I think it's just so diverse. There's so many different angles, and it's great anatomy. It really shows this understanding of it. Beautiful shadowing, and yeah, just very interesting panel shots. And I just like towards the end how there's this like gradual reveal of hope, and he finally sees his friend. You know, going from that panel where he's like sweating, trying to figure out, is this a mirage? Am I just slowly dying here? Am I just seeing a familiar face? It's cool. It's a cool way to tell the story. I like it. I like it. Alright, ladies and gents, I'm going to cut the stream here. Thanks for tuning in. This is a lot of fun as always. I will be back tomorrow. If you enjoy the content, hit the subscribe button, hit the like button. They both will help grow the stream, branch out more. And you'll also get a notification when I'm going live. And with that said, I will see you guys tomorrow.